And welcome back to Real Spit with Spitty. And let's get right to it with the next topic. Tiny Desk has been killing it with these live performances. Our boy Vallejo's own E-40 just did his Tiny Desk, and I mean, it was dope. One thing that I realized, and not that I didn't realize this, but E-40 got a crazy catalog. I think that he don't get the props or the flowers that he deserved for being like one of the most consistent artists over the years. From his first album, I mean, bro been killing it. You know what I'm saying? What you got In a Major Way was his first project. Other classic projects, The Element of Surprise, The Hall of Game. I mean, it's just so many. But, you know, one of my favorites, Get More Hipper Than a Hippopotamus. Get Up in Your Head Like a Neurologist. Like, man, got a partner by the name of Tupacalypse. Like, man, that boy with that Sprinkle Me. Like 40 Code. And the vernacular is just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Always popping my collar, jacking my slacks. You know what I'm talking about? 40 just, you know, always coming with that vernacular. I had the pleasure of working with him when I worked at Warner Brothers. I actually worked a little bit of my ghetto report card, but then I like spearheaded the marketing on Ball Street Journal. And so I had like the true opportunity to be able to meet him and work with him and vibe with him. I remember him coming to the office with a bottle of Gatorade filled with that Carlos Rossi, bruh, drink of choice. My first time ever going to San Francisco was with 40, setting up a live performance and album playback at the Apple Store. So that was really dope. But this Tiny Desk performance was just crazy. I gotta give respect to the Tiny Desk for what they doing and them, you know, giving these artists like the opportunity to play their music with a live band. It just gives you like a whole, you know, newfound respect for some of our favorite artists, you know, that we've come to know and love. The live band aspect of it just, you know, makes it so much doper. That's also why, you know, on the episode where I talked about, you know, artists going on tours and, you know, tour sales going down and things like that, you can see, you know, with these Tiny Desk performances, like these artists that really know how to perform and really take, you know, the term MC, you know, to the fullest, like, you know, move the crowd, master of ceremony, like being able to, you know, control a room. 40 hit us with a bunch of classics. Hope I Don't Go Back, one of his most legendary songs off that Element of Surprise album. He hit us with Sprinkle Me, which was crazy. And then to me, the dopest transition of the show was when he performed Captain Save 'Em. That was just like the transition that he went from the song he was playing before into that was like no other. It was really dope. But I definitely think 40 just needs to get his flowers for being one of the most consistent artists with, you know, dope beats, dope features. 40 was also one of the only artists that was ever featured on Cash Money projects. Cause you know, Cash Money rarely did outside features. So the only outside features Cash Money honestly ever did was E-40, Bun B, 3 6 Mafia. 40 is just a legend in the game and been doing this thing for a minute. Then, you know, 40, what's been so dope about him being able to like stay relevant through all of these years too. Some of my favorite songs from him, Law, the Yo Gotti song that he was featured on, and then Big Sean's I Don't Fuck With You. You know what I'm saying? Like that joint was crazy. And I think that it almost like shocked people, you know what I mean, when you would hear 40 on these songs and still being able to keep up and even outdoing some cats on, you know what I'm saying, some of the features that he was doing. A song that I was mad that he didn't perform on the Tiny Desk was a Slurricane. That was one of my favorite joints. Slurricane, but you can call me Hurricane. Like that was one of my favorite joints. 40 got so many songs that honestly, shit, he could have been up there for over an hour, you know, performing on there. A funny story that I got from 40, he was, you know, I've had the pleasure to work with a lot of dope artists, and I worked with 40 like pretty early in my career. It was the first, I guess, if you want to say OG and rap that I had the pleasure to work with was Snoop. I worked on the Blue Carpet Treatment album. But then after I left Geffen, I went over to Warner Brothers and got to work with 40. Him as an OG, just like some of the game that he schooled me to back in the day, like I even remember, man, one time like living in Cali, me being, new in Cali and smoking on that good weed out there. And I remember one time I came around 40 and I was high. I remember he like immediately, he was like, Jacory, is you high? And I was like, nah, what you talking about? He looked at me and he was like, hey man, you can't lie to an OG, man. Like, hey, he was like, you can't lie to an OG, man. He was like, hey man, next time, leave that at home, man. Like he straight up told me, like, hey, like don't move around in these settings, like being off center or whatever. And so, I just always respected bruh for like pulling me to the side and giving me some real game and really like taking me under his wing during that time when I was working at Warner Brothers. Some other of my favorite songs from 40, I would say I keep a mirror in my pocket because I practice looking hard. Like that was one of my favorite joints. That used to come on The Box. Y'all done heard me on other episodes talking about The Box, music, television, you control. That was definitely another joint that I got in trouble for when I called in to that 900 number and was ordering music videos. I definitely ordered that and got my ass whooped for that. But and then I saw something that was really dope too on the ground where Maurice Garland posted about when he connected the dots with E-40 and T-Pain for was that song called You and That, for that song. And that song was dope, one of E-40's biggest songs. But then shout out to my boy Maurice Garland, just dot connector in the game, one of the dopest journalists in the game, somebody who I've been pushing and trying to get to start talking on these platforms and all that. So maybe we can get Maurice to pull up over here on Real Spit and share some legendary stories, because me and him got some legendary stories from being in the studio with Big Boy, a couple of other artists. So, and I know he got a million stories. But, and how many of y'all remember when E-40 had that beef with Rasheed Wallace? I just seen she talking, I think like Gil's Arena, or one of those podcasts where talked about the history of, them having beef. And then 40 actually on like his song Record Haters, I think that was on like the Hall of Game album, put that skit on there and, and diss Rasheed Wallace. So that was crazy. But just much respect to 40. Man, that Tiny Desk was dope. He deserved all his flowers. Another memory, too, of me working with him was when we dropped Ball Street Journal, and then he had a song with Bun B and with Gucci Mane. Trying to remember. I think it was called, The Recipe. All hip hop. Shout out to Chuck. Shout out to Grouchy Greg. They had posted only the verse of Gucci Mane. I remember 40 calling me, being like, hey man, call Greedy Greg, man. They think I'm a marshmallow over here, man. Call Greedy Greg right now. Get him on the phone, man. They posted my song without my verse on it, man. That was one of the funniest like moments, but not funny because of what they did to bro, but just the way he was snapping and the way, but you know what I mean? But 40 always stood on business, you know what I mean? And that's one thing I've always respected about him. And every time I've come into contact with him, he's been the same dude, been the same person, always, got a smile on his face, always kicking some lingo, kicking some game, and just always been good people. So I just want to shout out, 40 in that Tiny Desk performance. And we got to give 40 his flowers, man, because he's really one of the dopest, one of the most consistent. He was one of the first people to have Tupac, on features. And another one of my favorite songs that I wish he would have performed was Dusted and Disgusted. But I could ramble on and on about my favorite E-40 songs and songs that he should have performed on Tiny Desk. Maybe we just need to get 40 to come on DGB and do a whole performance or, something like that. Shit, maybe we need to make that happen. Let me manifest that right now. But shout out to 40, shout out to the whole team. Shout out to the Yay area. Shout out to Vallejo, Magazine Street. And yeah, that's Real Spit from your boy Spit. Yes, sir.